Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Giradi Radha Giradi Radhe Jaya Radha Giradi Radha Giradi Radha Giradi Radha Giradi Radha Giradi Radha Prabhupada 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 Jai Jaya Prabhupada 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 Srila Prabhupada Ki Jam Vishpad Paramahamsa Pravijikacharya Sotara Sata Shishimadesi Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON founder Acharya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jam Vishpad Paramahamsa Pravijikacharya Sotara Sata Shishimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhugan Ki Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhani Ki Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jagannath Puri Dham Ki New Govardhan Dham Ki Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Srila Prabhupada's Translated Book Distribution Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrindike Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Patale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharne Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Dishatarane. We're getting to hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 30, text number 25. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namaha Kamalanabhaya. Namaha Kamalanabhaya. Namaha Kamalamalane. Namaha Kamalamalane. Namaha Kamalapadaya. Namaha Kamalapadaya. Namaste Kamalekshana. Namaste Kamalekshana. Namah Kamalanabhaya. Namah Kamalamalane. Namah Kamalapadaya. Namaste Kamalekshana. Namah Kamalanabhaya. Namah Kamalamalane. Namah Kamalapadaya. Namaste Kamalekshana. Namah Kamalanabhaya. Namah Kamalanabhaya. Namah Kamalapadaya. Namaste Kamalekshana. Namah Kamalanabhaya. Namah Kamalamalane. Namah Kamalapadaya. Namaste Kamalekshana. Namah Kamalanabhaya. Namah Kamalamalane. Namah Kamalapadaya. Namaste Kamalekshana. Namaha. We offer our respectful obeisances. Kamalanabhaya. Unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whose abdomen the original lotus flower originated. Namaha. Obeisances. Kamalamalane. Who's always decorated with a garland of lotus flowers. Namaha. Obeisances. Kamalapadaya. Whose feet are as beautiful and fragrant as the lotus flower. Namaste. Obeisances unto you. Kamala Ikshana. Whose eyes are exactly like the petals of the lotus flower. Translation. Dear Lord, we offer our respectful obeisances unto you, because from your abdomen sprouts the lotus flower, the origin of all living entities. You're always decorated with a lotus garland, and your lotus feet resemble the lotus flower with all its fragrance. Your eyes are also like the petals of a lotus flower, Therefore we always offer our respectful obeisances unto you. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. The word Kamala Nabhaya indicates that Lord Vishnu is the origin of the material creation. From the abdomen of Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, a lotus flower sprouts. Lord Brahma, the first creature of the universe, is born from this lotus flower, and subsequently Lord Brahma creates the whole universe. The origin of all creation is therefore Lord Vishnu, and the origin of all Vishnu Tattvas, all the Vishnu Tattvas, is Lord Krishna. Consequently, Krishna is the origin of everything. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 10.8. Ham sarvasya prabhavo mattat sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. I'm the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. End quote. Lord Krishna says, I'm the origin of everything. Therefore, whatever we see emanates from Him. This is also confirmed in the Vedanta Sutra, Janmadya Yasha Yataha. The absolute truth is He from whom everything emanates. We could pray together, please. Amagyanatimanandasya ginanjana salakaya chakshurmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shita Patikamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shiva Shakan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karana Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhana Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakopatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I can remember before I became an aspiring devotee, I was out in the middle of the desert. I was born and raised in Oklahoma, so that was a new experience, but camping out in the desert, far away from any city, and you could see the Milky Way. Something I couldn't see in the city I lived in. And you stayed up so late that night just looking at the stars in the sky above and just wondering, wow, where does this come from? I'd been raised to believe in God, and so I accepted it came from God. But this is a question that any intelligent person will ask. Where does the universe come from? Where do I come from? What's the purpose? And here in this purport, the answer is being given. It comes from Krishna. Everything comes from Krishna. We have the verse from the Brahma Samhita. Text. Now, invocation, actually. Text 1. Ishvaraha Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarna Karnam. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme Godhead. He has an eternal blissful spiritual body. He's the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he's the prime cause of all causes. So it's really inconceivable subject matter for us tiny living entities. Krishna as the cause of all causes, the creator of everything. It's beyond our comprehension. We accept it. We devotees, we thoroughly are convinced of it because Krishna tells us that's the case, because the acharyas who have realized Krishna tell us that's the case. The scripture repeatedly tells us that Krishna, Vishnu, Narayan, they are the cause of all the creations. You read the purport to Ham Sarvasya Prabhavo and you'll see 8-10 verses quoted from the Upanishads, the Puranas, the Mahabharata, etc. That before anything existed, Krishna existed. So Krishna is the origin of everything. Most religions, that's about as far as they get, is they conceptualize God as the creator of this material universe. He's our Supreme Father. And that's absolutely necessary to have any understanding of who God is. And if we don't see the relationship with the Supreme Lord as creator, as the proprietor, the enjoyer of this creation, this material universe, then we'll be living the life of an animal, simply speculating about such things like the intelligent so-called scientist, etc., mathematicians speculating about the source of the universe, etc. Just a complete waste of time. Doesn't free them from any of the miseries of life. Simply by hearing this verse, chanting this verse, remembering this verse, you become free from the miseries of life. Not only do you understand that Krishna is the supreme creator, but you understand he's the supreme person, the supreme spiritual person. Srila Prabhupada coined the phrase in English, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tamal Krishna Goswami wrote his PhD thesis on this fact. If you were to count the number of times that Srila Prabhupada uses the term, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it's incredible. Bhagavan, Swayam Rupa, Sri Krishna. So he is the Supreme. Prabhupada wanted to be the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. No mistaking, no doubt. Very specific. God is Krishna. Nobody else understands this. Just the Vaishnavas. And even many of the Vaishnavas, they understand Vishnu, but not really Krishna. The topmost knowledge and the most secret of all secrets. But it's been openly shared amongst us by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and his associates. And as I say, it's really inconceivable. Because Krishna, he has created everything, but everything that is created is his energies. Now we're hearing Satchit Ananda. His form is concentrated eternal existence, full knowledge, and unbounded, unlimited bliss. Felicity, as Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur uses the term. Happiness, Ananda. This is the person, Krishna, the son of Mother Yasoda. So all that is created comes from his energies. All that, he expands into so many different expansions, the Vishnu Tattvas, as we heard in the purport. They're coming from Krishna. Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now these energies are eternal also. He has unlimited energies, but they've been broken down into three for our basic understanding. Spiritual, marginal, and material. Now because we're in the material world, conditioned by this mind, this body, by the experiences we have accumulated since time immemorial in this world, we think in terms of created. But even though Krishna is the origin of everything, we the marginal potency of the Lord, the material energy of the Lord, what to speak of the spiritual energy of the Lord, they're all eternal. They have no beginning. They have no cessation. So the very thought of Krishna being the creator is simply to help us in a way that accommodates our very crippled, limited conceptions, our intelligence, our perception. Everything we see has a beginning and end. So wherefrom does the beginning, what's the source? It's Krishna. But the material energy, like we are, is eternal, and it's simply manifest and unmanifest. And Krishna is the source of it all. So amazingly wonderful that he expands as Balaram, his immediate expansion, the possessor of the Samvit potency, all existence, all eternality rests within him. He expands as Mahasankarshan. Mahasankarshan expands as Mahavishnu. Lying on the causal ocean, I mean, what do you say, the topography, the geography of reality? Inconceivable. Unlimited Brahman everywhere. Everywhere is Brahman, the effulgence emanating from the body of Krishna, his spiritual energy. With Brahman, through Brahman, on Brahman, however you want to say it, material energy manifests here. Now in the spiritual world, there are unlimited Vaikuntha planets, the abodes of the unlimited forms of the Lord with his unlimited devotees and servants, reciprocating with each other as the heart of the servant dictates. I was talking to devotees in Maui yesterday, and Dinabandhu Prabhu visited them and went to one of the houses of the devotees, saw their altar. They had Gaurnitai, Radha Krishna, Namacharya Haridas Thakur, a Gopal deity, etc. And he said, "Who's your Ishtadev?" Do you know what Ishtadev means? Your beloved Lord of the heart. Who do you love more than any other? Hopefully that's form of the Lord. But of course with the devotees asking, who's your Ishtadev? And the Prabhus didn't know how to answer. And they were asking me, how does that work? Does the Ishtadev choose you? Do you choose the Ishtadev? And according to my understanding, I said, you choose your Ishtadev. Krishna says, as you surrender to him, he will reward you accordingly. Now by your association, if you associate with Ram Bhaktas, you're going to become attracted to Ram. Associate with Krishna devotees, you'll become attracted to Krishna. South India, they worship Rukmini Krishna. They worship Parthasarthi, etc. If you associate with Lord Chaitanya's devotees, then you'll become attracted to him and Radhan Krishna. The two manifestations, eternal manifestations of the Supreme, the ultimate, the original personality of Godhead, Krishna and Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Krishna in the mood of a devotee. And you can cultivate this desire within the heart. We should be cultivating by the practice of sadhana bhakti, by hearing these types of verses. Krishna the person, Lord Chaitanya the person, is so wonderful. So very wonderful. And wherever the mind dwells, the heart follows. And more the heart is captured by a form of the Lord, names of the Lord, qualities of the Lord, the beauty of the Lord in this verse, activities of the Lord, then this becomes the Lord of your heart. This will become the highest benediction you receive when he accepts you by the mercy of his representatives and himself. Who's your Ishtadev? So for the Prachetas, it's Narayan. It's Vishnu. They're glorifying him here. He's right here in front of them, giving them his darshan. They have meditated upon him for 10,000 years. This beautiful prayer, prayers that Lord Shiva taught them. And they were thinking of, chanting, hearing, remembering, absorbed in this form of the Lord, and that's the form that appeared before them. And so he said, and as such, they glorified him. Now it's interesting because Srila Prabhupada has taught us when in front of the Lord, we can't see the Lord, not with material vision. One's life has to become saturated with loving devotion before the Lord will reveal himself, with purity of desire of service, selfless service, before he will manifest his form from the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. But as we discussed last class, the deity is Krishna. She is Srimati Radharani. The Lord stands right in front of us in a way in which we can see him. We can serve him. And Srila Prabhupada has taught us that when you present yourself before the Lord and then you look upon the Lord, you should begin with the lotus feet of the Lord. It is very submissive. It is very respectful. It is appropriate as his insignificant servant. You start from the feet. Then you move up the form of the Lord, the transcendental form, his thighs, his legs, his waist, which is what they start off with, that the Lord has a navel. In Vishnu or in Garbhodakshai Vishnu, the navel is, one purport Prabhupada says, an indentation like a lotus flower, and of course the spiritual lotus flower coming from the Lord. Part of the body of Garbhodakshai Vishnu, this comes out, and this is where they begin their glorification of Vishnu. And in that lotus flower are all us conditioned living entities just waiting to come out, to be given a body, to begin to act upon the desires that have just been stockpiled and that are just anxious, eager to burst forth and try to enjoy separate from Krishna. All within the lotus flower. In fact, all the planets are there in the lotus flower. In the beginning, it is just the empty shell of the universe, half of it filled with transcendental water from the body of the Lord, Garbhodaka ocean. The Lord is lying there in Ananta Sesha. Independently, he gives Brahmaji his body. Brahma is born from the lotus flower. And everything is right there within the stem of the lotus flower for Lord Brahma to take advantage of, to utilize, and to manifest the secondary creation. That of the planets, of the bodies, etc., etc. This is totally transcendental. And then what do we have? You're always decorated with the lotus garland. Now, if I remember correctly, last time I asked, some of you haven't seen a lotus flower. Am I correct? Ever seen a lotus flower? In person? Smelled a lotus flower? Ravi? Yeah, we've had some here, right? Very fortunate. They don't quite smell as fresh when they've been shipped from India. But you get an idea. What a unique creation, the lotus flower. And it has to be special for the Lord's transcendental body to be compared to that flower. The reason why it is compared and glorified in relationship to the lotus flower is because we can't really perceive how beautiful Krishna in his transcendental form is. But if you see a lotus flower, and there are different colors of lotus flowers, blue, pink, white, reddish. So many beautiful types of lotus flowers. And the whorl inside, and then the little stamen. And then the pollen that we heard is the color of the spiritual dhoti cloth the Lord wears. And his feet are said to be the fragrance of the lotus flower. His feet are as soft as a lotus flower. Among the many symbols on the bottom of his feet, we may have cracked feet, we may have lines in our feet, but Krishna's got so many transcendental symptoms that are symbols that he and he alone in their totality have. And a lotus flower is one of them. And when he walks in the dust of Vrindavan, Queen Kunti even says when he walks in Hastinapur, it's in the purport, or in Dwarka, the imprints of his transcendental symptoms are left in the dust, and as such that place becomes most blessed. So I found it interesting because in Dwarka and Hastinapur, etc., as a king, a prince, you would think he would generally wear sandals, but he must like to put his toes in the grass and walk on the ground, sometimes barefoot. Certainly in Vrindavan. Mother Yasoda said you had to put sandals on, shoes on when he was old enough to take the calves out to the neighboring fields close to the village. How can I do that? The calves don't have any shoes. Can you make shoes for all the calves? If you give them shoes, I'll wear shoes. But Krishna doesn't wear shoes. How could Mother Yasoda make hundreds of thousands of shoes for the calves and cows? Vrindavan is so nice. This abode of the Lord. The devotees are pained to think that he's soft. Twice I got to touch the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. Once in Dallas and once on the last day he was with us in Vrindavan. And they were as soft as a baby's skin. So tender, so soft. Similarly, Krishna, his feet are so soft. And they're pained, and he walks on the ground in the forest, the pebbles, the thorns, the sticks, etc. But Vrindavan is so wonderful. Govardhan is so wonderful that when he walks, if need be, it will soften itself and make it cushy, comfortable for the Lord to walk upon. He doesn't experience discomfort at all. In fact, any experience that he has in reciprocation with his Dham and with the devotees in the Dham, it's all a source of pleasure. I quoted on Ram's appearance day, the pastime. He had a thorn in his foot and he wouldn't pull it out because whoever takes shelter of his lotus feet, he'll never reject them. Now, once we get a splinter in our finger or our foot or whatever, we want to get it out as quickly as possible. But all these things for the Lord's transcendental body and transcendental consciousness is simply a source of bliss. It's all Leela. Inconceivable. But his lotus feet, we have no idea. As long as we remain in the bodily concept of life, we will have no idea how attractive those lotus feet are. And once seeing them, once having given one's life to them in service to the Lord and his devotees, the mission of Lord Chaitanya, etc., then one wants nothing more than to be allowed shelter of those feet and the service to those lotus feet. Such a wonderful person. This is his name, Krishna. It's the embodiment, the perfection of addressing the Lord because he's all attractive. Everyone is satisfied in their relationship and reciprocations with Krishna. Nobody is left dissatisfied. And then last but not least, what does it say? Got the feet, and we also, your eyes. Oh my goodness, the petals of a lotus, comparing the Lord's eyes. I mean, what do we know? What can we comprehend? We see pictures, we see the deities. Asian people sometimes have almond eyes, very attractive. When young, very attractive. And Krishna's eyes are said to be much bigger than our eyes, like the petal of a lotus. Like when you make a bead bag, basically you get 2 or 4. It's been many a year since I've seen the bead bag made. But basically you cut out like a lotus petal and then you sew them together. So the eyes of Krishna, reddish tinged like the lotus flower. And there's so many. Lotus navel, lotus mouth. I mean the mouth. The eyes. So many parts of the body, lotus hands, lotus feet, etc., compared to the lotus flower. So this is the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. And in this verse, it's really emphasizing the lotus flower coming from his abdomen as Garbhodakshai Vishnu and our Creator, the origin of us all. And if we don't get that understanding down, then our attempt to try and understand Lord Krishna will be sentimental at best, and it will not go the distance. We will be misled. You have to understand that Krishna is inconceivable, that he is the possessor of unlimited potencies, and that creating the creation is, for him, as simply as having a wish to do so, or lying down and having a dream and it being executed according to his desire. And Krishna himself doesn't have to bother with it. He's at home with his most intimate family and friends, and he delegates his expansions, the Vishnus involved in the creation, the total creation in each universe, and then entering into each atom and the heart of each living entity. The 3 Vishnus, they yearn for the opportunity to serve Krishna. They yearn to serve Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Like yesterday was Abhiram Das Thakur's disappearance day, and he had paid obeisances to the first son, the first one to pass the test, not giving up the body when he offered obeisances to the newly born child. And that child was Virabhadra Prabhu, the biggest limb coming from Nityananda Prabhu. If memory serves me correctly, he's the incarnation of Kshirodakshai Vishnu. The super soul. And he just wants to serve the Lord. They all are eager. When Krishna displays his pastimes, they want to join in. Or Mahavishnu, he felt like, I got no slot, I got no appointment, I got no reciprocation here. He steals the sons of the Brahman, causing it to appear as if they die at birth. I forget how many there were, 7, something like that. He took them, snatched them, kidnapped them, took them to his planet, just so that the Lord would come to see him. I remember reading one little section of a book that Jananivas Prabhu had. What is Gopal Guru's treatise on meditation on Radha and Krishna and worship of Radha and Krishna. It was stated when Radha and Krishna engage in when Krishna appears in his manifest Leela within the universes, all the different forms of the Lord accompanying him and are inside him. And it was stated that when he engages in the Rasa Leela dance, guess what? Sorry, you got to give us some privacy here. The Vishnu forms, they have to leave the body. They're not allowed to participate in the Rasa Leela. Just like sometimes it's said when the demigods, you see the picture and there's there's a Vimana, a heavenly celestial airplane, as it were, where the demigods are flying overhead looking at the Rasa Leela. Well, memory serves me correctly, then they don't see both Krishna and the gopis. They're not qualified. They'll see Krishna dancing, but they won't see his most intimate servants with him. They just get part of the picture. But it's enough. Anything, any crumb, any particle of mercy that Krishna bestows upon us, it's enough to make us try harder and harder to surrender so that we can become qualified, that he will deem us fit to reveal himself to us. This is the goal of Krishna consciousness, that we can be deemed fit. We pass the tests of our spiritual master in following his instructions to the best of our ability, and that Krishna will present himself to us, allow us into his family, into his village, to eternally serve. To get there, as I've said, we have to hear ardently, with the proper desire, not mechanically, not with an inattentive mind. We have to hear from the right source, which is someone in disciplic succession. The more realized, the better. We have to receive and apply the teachings as they are. And if we do that, then that's the foundation from which we can appreciate these verses. This verse, by the way, is almost exactly like King Kunti's prayer. Namaha Pankajanabhaya, Namaha Pankajamalane, Namaha Pankajanetraya, Namaste Pankajangriye. So she switched the last two. He spoke of her, the Pracheta spoke of Vishnu's eyes as a lotus flower, and she had that as the third item, glorifying this lotus-like Lord, and his feet at the end. She put the feet at the end. She didn't put it in the beginning either, but she is the eternal aunt of Krishna, and she didn't want to embarrass Krishna, taking a subordinate position, because he considers himself her nephew, she is his superior, and he would have been embarrassed, and she didn't want him to feel like that, inconvenienced, discomforted, which is a nice little point for devotees. Think before we speak, because we should try and understand what the effect of our words with each other will be. The advanced devotees, the pure devotees certainly do. They weigh their words very carefully, and they speak in such a way that Guru and Krishna will be pleased, and therefore the greatest possibility is there that all others will be pleased. If they're fortunate, if they're pious, they will be receptive and they will benefit. So I think that's a few thoughts on this verse. Glorifying the Lord as having a lotus-like navel, wearing a garland of lotus flowers, whose feet are like lotus flowers, and whose eyes are like the petals of a lotus flower. Are there any questions or comments in this regard?
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the nice class. I'm just curious to know that that you were explaining about the glories of the lotus flower. I mean, in one way, I can understand that because the Lord is it's his paraphernalia, so it has a very special significance, definitely. But is there any other reason that only the lotus flower is given such special significance?
There probably is, but I'm such an idiot I couldn't You're right, it is part of his paraphernalia. The lotus garland is there, and Lord Vishnu is always holding. Sometimes Krishna twirls a lotus flower in his hand, smelling it. And there's so many unlimited flowers in Vrindavan. But the lotus, so many. There's a lecture by Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj that's been put into a book, Sri Guru Charna Padma. And he elaborates at great length why the feet of the spiritual master are compared to a lotus flower. If you can access that book, you would probably find a lot more glorification. Why the simile, the comparison is there. That's the best that I can do for you, Ravi.
There's always these two big questions that I've always been trying to figure out in Krishna consciousness, and every time I try to ask the question, I don't even know if it has an answer. So I've gotten these kind of
Prabhupada has told us every question will be answered, but sometimes you have to wait till you get back to Godhead, then you'll understand.
Because it's about eternity, which it's so hard to reconcile what that means from this position in this material world. Because
yes.
The Vedas do such a good job of showing beginning and end of creation forms within the material world, and we're so used to that beginning, middle, and end that it works. We get these analogies, and they work. But this idea, like, I am Sat Chit Ananda. I have a concept of being fully cognizant, and I have a concept of ever-increasing bliss. I get that. But the fact that I always existed, and Krishna always existed, and there was no origin of that existence, and I always existed separate from Krishna. Is there an analogy or a way to understand that always existed? I mean, does that make sense that I'm asking that? It's
sure. I mean, that's why, in one sense, why I brought it up, for hopefully kickstarting thoughts about an apparent contradiction.
Well, in the Achinta Beta Tattva,
Exactly.
I get that that's simultaneous. I get how that relationship, the inconceivable nature of the Lord and his separated energies, but it's that idea of somewhere not here in a spiritual realm that's always existent, there's unlimited jivas and Krishna that have always existed.
All of us have always existed, always. It's just we dropped out of the program, and since we're very infinitesimal and material energy is more powerful than we are when we are separate from Krishna, then we're bewildered. We're covered and bewildered. So of course it makes it hard. It's counter, you could say, intuitive if you simply rely upon knowledge acquired from the senses on the strength of your mind and intelligence.
Yeah.
But that's the point about Krishna consciousness. That's not how we acquire knowledge. We accept that which is descending from the Lord himself through the disciplic succession in the scripture, etc. If you don't accept it, what are you left with? Bewilderment and ignorance. But to help you understand, the more you engage in the process of sadhana bhakti, the more taste you experience in your chanting, in your hearing, in your studying, in your reciprocating with devotees, you will come to understand eternality. Time stops. Like my mind sometimes wants to look at the clock. I know the kirtan leader has to be somewhat mindful of that, and he'll look at the clock. I don't want to look at the clock in kirtan. I want to hear the sound vibration. I want to chant it as enthusiastically as I can, praying for the mercy. Please accept this service of this chanting and dancing. Very often when we become absorbed in devotional service, we get a glimpse of eternality, because basically you're in the potency and the shelter of the spiritual energy of Krishna, which is eternal. And so the more you practice and the more you advance, then the more you will come to understand what you're asking about. And you get these glimpses. What to speak of when you realize you're not the body? Eternality will be understood. It will be realized. Our commonality with all other living entities will be realized. Our relationship, because we're devotees when we realize self-realization, we will realize our eternal relationship with Krishna. But until then, we have to take inspiration from the glimpses and the ever-increasing experience of those glimpses as we become absorbed in devotional service.
Thank you. And that leads into the second part of what I was trying to figure out. And you mentioned something a moment ago, why you described why we're here in the material world. What did we do, or why did you say?
He said we dropped out.
Okay, that's exactly what I'm asking then is, and I might have it wrong how this works, but if I was in the spiritual world, or I existed there, and I was Satchidananda there, I always thought that I would have enough cognizance and knowledge to know that that's where I should be, and this isn't a real place to come to. So I never really understood why I would make a decision to come here and act like a pseudo-lord.
Do I remember you saying you almost regretted having left San Diego in the first place when COVID came around?
Yeah, I wish I didn't have attachments up there and I could have just stayed.
Would you say that that was a dumb choice, more or less?
All things considered, yeah.
You had the ability to make a dumb choice because you have independence. And in our independence, use of independence that Krishna will never take away from us, that's what allows you and I and Krishna to relish our reciprocation with each other, because it's voluntarily offered. I choose to surrender to you and serve you. That's the basis of love. But because of our ability, our nature to have independence, we can screw up. We do it. It's not uncommon here in this world. Why, this world's just a perverted reflection of that world. Why would it be, even when you know better, that you make a stupid choice?
Because I'm chit there, right? I have.
Yeah, no, but it's like, how would you say? There are certain things you know that will not be good for you, but you do it anyway. You have knowledge. It happens all the time in this world. Think of any example you want in your own life that will be most applicable. Criminals, yeah. When you were a child, did you ever have that urge? You're not supposed to take from the candy store. You're not supposed to steal. Oh, the most embarrassing when I stole a Playboy magazine and got caught as a little kid, 10-year-old or whatever. Oh, my God. How stupid was that? I've been trained. I knew better. Yet that little old, it's the cartoon character. We say the mind, misguided desire, perverted intelligence. No, that's going to make me happy. Oh, God, was I humiliated. Needless to say, I never did that again. So once we wake up from this dream through devotional service and we return to Krishna, needless to say, we will never experience this again.
All right.
It will simply be like a faint memory of a bad dream. In eternality, our existence here in the material world is just like that. So the future's bright. Anybody else? Thank you for your attention, your association, your examples. Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki. about those roses that Radharani's offering Krishna. Are they like from a previous yuga? Or from a different Varsha? My goodness. Jai. Nice opulence. Hare Krishna.